Just like walk us through, how do you go from like, maybe you have a product in some arena, you generate some data, you've got some data, you got some intuition about this data, of something high value that you can extract or do with it. How does that go from that intuition and idea and data to a crisp idea of what a product should be that leverages, some machine learning or some AI?
So you can stop and redirect me if you want. But I'm going to start with a couple of here's what it's not kind of thing.
Sure.
And it might sound incredibly trivial or boring, but like in general, you're trying to identify an unmet need and meet that need, right? Like, so you're looking for a pain point that a particular demographic or a particular market experiences, and then you're trying to figure out, hey, can I solve that pain point? And this sounds super basic, and it is super basic, but I want to say it again because I think whenever a new wave of technology comes along, like whether it's voice UX with echo speakers or whether it's facial recognition or whatever it is, I think there's this inversion that happens for a while where the question for product managers or C-level folks of like, what should we build, becomes, oh, how do I use X in my industry, right? Like, and now you've got the hammer looking for the nail. And though I can totally empathize with that sort of top-down mindset, that is not, in my experience, likely to produce a fruitful outcome. Like if you approach it as like, oh, ChatGPT is all the rage. Well, my industry is used car sales. What is ChatGPT going to do for used car sales? You might get some inspiration coming from that, but you got to keep backing off and rooting in. Okay, well, let me look at my list because I probably got a list of what are some pain points, right? Like, and then evaluate those as to how could this technology help me solve those?
That, I think that's a super important point, because the hammer looking for the nail thing is what most technologists wind up doing for a
Yeah.
good chunk of their careers, right? And I think almost every academic does this, at least if in engineering departments or computer science departments. Are you almost saying, like, if you want to sort of leverage new kind of capabilities that can drive some innovation, it's almost like you're saying, well, maintain a list or something of those capabilities, but at the top you're anchored in your core user that you're trying to make their lives better or in some way, and now you're looking for intersections or something.
Exactly. I don't know when the right point to sort of branch into this is. I do think that the scale and speed of synthesis of information that is becoming possible with these well-trained LLMs opens up a new avenue of product exploration, right? So if you think of the traditional model, or maybe traditional is the wrong word, but like, let's talk about, being lean, right? Like product startup lean model. It's, okay, I've got my pain point. I'm going to shop the idea through my network, validate, that this is a customer pain point. Now I'm going to sort of assess, what's my potential addressable market, right? So I'm going to throw up a landing page. I'm going to throw up some surveys that hit to a landing page. I'm going to, SEO this. I'm going to SEO that. See what clicks. If I have enough sticking on the wall, now I'm going to build the MVP, see what adoption looks like, and scale from there, right? That's kind of the lean playbook.
Yeah.
And it's great. Like, it's a good playbook. I love it. What you can imagine being possible with the scalability and of something like GPT-4 or its successors is you can fail faster on some of these ideas or some of these investigations you're doing, right? And so I'm going to get a little bit sci-fi here, but I don't think too much. And you could say something like, hey, based on available, very, Picard talking to, the ship, based on available demographic data, like, what's the approximate addressable market for, my idea of foo? And what's the median income of consumers who would be interested in a foo solution, right? Like data that might have taken you weeks or a month to kind of like corral and synthesize, you can get for the price of a question now, assuming that you can trust go ahead.
So this is interesting. I want to make sure I understand you here, but you're basically saying use GPT to help you think through your product and your product planning process, all the way down to the questions that you would have ran off before, like 4 months ago, and started looking for actual data. just talk to it and start to get to it quicker?
The short answer is yes, but I'm going to sort of hedge that with saying like, look, if you're just, and this will get to, I think we'll get to this all down the road about when we start talking about, who benefits from this stuff, who owns the models, who does LoRa's to, update checkpoints for the models and all that kind of stuff. But you've got to have the right data in there, right? Like it's not magic. Like the systems are great, but they're trained on what they're trained on. I think the scenario that I'm lining out here with you, and you follow up with like, okay, I'm, as long as I'm fleshing this out, and I'm thinking of doing a combinator, kind of, an incubator thing on it. Like what Fortune 1000 companies would be interested in acquiring a food solution, and how would that fit in with their current product or services portfolio? The kind of stuff that you basically, you can think of it as a combination of market research and analyst report stuff that you used to maybe, slog through for weeks or a month. It's totally reasonable, given the right, whether it's plugins or whatever your data model is, that you should be able to get that in minutes through using a large language model.
What does that mean for what you do as a product manager if you're getting such meaningful strategic feedback so fast? Like, does that mean you're able to spend more time fine tuning between what product you go and focus on, or what feature area you go and focus on? Like,
two things I'll say. One is I throw that out there as kind of like, look, in my experience, most founders or most, senior product folks, like we don't have a shortage of pain point ideas, right? Like we don't need any help generating like, oh, I'd like to start a business. What might I do? You know what I mean? What we have a shortage of is understanding which of the pain points we perceive, like how big those are for the rest of the world and how monetizable they are, right? And so that's what the whole MVP process is meant to fast track is, yeah, you've got this idea, like, you're a parent, you've been watching how bad, Bark and Circle are for doing, parental control. And so you have this feeling that there's space in the marketplace for better parental controls for, net nanny kind of stuff. Great, that's an intuition you have, but now you need data to prove or disprove that intuition, right? I will make the assertion that a system like, and whatever kind of oracular system you are trusting, it's never going to be able to tell you how to do the right thing or like how excellent to do it, but it will help you spot a bunch of negative paths quickly, and so you can fail fast on things that would be non-starters. Does that make sense?
yes, I think so.